Let me tell you about the winter. I found out sometimes karma doesn't just knock, it brings a snowplow. Picture this. It's 3 a.m. I'm half awake, glued to the Weather Channel, when suddenly my phone starts lighting up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. In Colorado Springs, that's the equivalent of the universe screaming, "Buckle up, buddy." I already know what's coming, a blizzard so fierce it's about to make every mailbox disappear and bury half the city under enough snow to make Canada jealous. I'm Trevor Kowalski, the guy behind Mountain Peak Snow Removal. And yeah, that's as glamorous as it sounds, meaning at 4 a.m., I'm out there in a souped-up Ram 3500 with a plow worth more than some people's first house, fueled by gas station coffee and the vague hope that my toes will survive another winter. Funny thing is, it all started as a side hustle. Just me, a rusty old Ford, and a plow that looked like it had survived the Civil War. 8 years later, I'm running 5 trucks, employing a dozen tough souls who somehow still talk to me after 12-hour shifts and keeping the lights on for my wife Rachel and our 2 kids. And believe it or not, I genuinely like helping folks dig out from nature's latest tantrum. There's a weird satisfaction in knowing you're the difference between people making it to work and being trapped with their in-laws for another day. But let's get to the meat of it, because on this particular stormy morning, I was about to learn just how sideways life can go, all thanks to a woman named Patricia Hendress and the magical powers of an HOA president on a power trip. So there I am, plowing through Ridgemont Estates, this neat little neighborhood where the mountain views are nice and the rules are tighter than a drum. I've been working there for 3 years, never had a problem, never missed a contract. I'm not hired by the HOA. Nope, I've got deals with about 40 individual homeowners, that detail. It's gonna matter more than you'd ever believe. See the Ridgemont Estates, HOA. They're that special breed of bureaucratic busybody who send you letters about your trash can being visible from Saturn and want everyone's house painted alpine beige, number 6. The queen bee is Patricia 50-something white Lexus custom plates, HOA Queen. I kid you not, and a haircut so severe it could slice cheese. Most mornings she'd wave me down just to point out that I'd blocked her mailbox for like a minute. I smiled, nodded, kept it polite because that's how you survive HOAs. But on this morning, just as the sky's going from pitch black to grim gray and I'm knee-deep in fresh powder, something new pops up in my rearview mirror. Flashing lights. My first thought, great, a cop or an ambulance. Turns out it's a tow truck. And behind that tow truck, Patricia, in her Lexus, watching with the kind of satisfaction you only see on reality TV villains. The driver hops out, young guy, nervous, holding a clipboard like it might bite. "I have orders to tow your truck." For a second, I just stare at him. My plow, my livelihood being hauled off in the middle of a storm. Because he says the HOA president claims I'm operating a commercial vehicle without authorization. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about parking or even about snow. It was about power, plain and simple. Patricia didn't want clear streets. She wanted to prove a point. I tried to reason with her, asked for 5 minutes, approached her car. She barely cracked her window just enough to let the cold in and her disdain out. "Mr. Kowalski, you're violating the HOA's covenants. No authorization, no operation." Never mind that I'd been plowing these same streets for years without a whisper of trouble. Never mind there's a blizzard burying cars as we speak. Honestly, it was one of those moments where you want to lose your temper, say something you'd regret. But all I could do was grab my essentials from the truck watch as it got loaded onto the flatbed and wonder what fresh hell I'd landed in. Now, if you've ever had your truck towed in the middle of a blizzard, you know the feeling, a blend of rage, disbelief, and financial panic. I'm standing there, snow piling up, watching Patricia drive off, leaving me with a problem big enough to bankrupt my whole operation. Here's where the universe throws me a bone, or rather a twist. My client Bob, still in his robe, trudges out through the snow. "Trevor, what the hell's going on?" When I tell him, he shakes his head. "That's Patricia for you. Last month, she fined the Hendersons $300 for having Christmas lights up past New Year's." That's the moment I realize I'm not alone in this. These people, my clients, are just as sick of Patricia as I am. I call Rachel, explain everything. She goes from sleepy to furious in under 10 seconds. "That's harassment, Trev. Call a lawyer, now. But first I have to get my truck out of impound, a process involving more hoops than a circus. Turns out the fees are astronomical, and they won't release my truck unless the HOA authorizes it. Enter Mike Brennan, my lawyer. Part pit bull. Part wise old uncle, the kind of guy who's seen every HOA shenanigan in the book. I spill the whole mess. He's quiet, then says Trevor. This is one of the dumber things I've seen. You're in the right and the HOA is way out of line. He cooks up a planned demand. The HOA pay the fees and release my truck. And if they refuse, sue the pants off them for damages and interference with my business. You're not just a victim here. You've got leverage. But that doesn't help me right now with 4 crews stranded and half a city buried. So I start thinking if Patricia wants to play games, maybe I can play too. Mike does his research and calls me back. Turns out in Colorado, if someone prevents you from completing contracted services, especially in an emergency, you can bill them. Not just for what you lost, but for what it would have cost them to hire someone else at emergency rates. And trust me, during a blizzard, those rates are eye-watering. So I document everything, photos of unplowed streets, videos, statements from homeowners. I send the HOA an invoice for $48,600 itemized, professional, and about as subtle as a slap in the face. Now here's where the fun really starts. The HOA board calls desperate to negotiate. Their story changes from, "You can't work here," to, "Maybe we can work something out." I tell them, "Pay the impound fees and we'll talk." They balk. I don't budge. Mike sends a demand letter, threatens small claims court, and the whole thing explodes on social media. Local news picks it up, plow truck towed in blizzard, and suddenly Patricia and the HOA are getting more attention than they ever wanted. And then the twist hits. A reporter discovers Patricia's husband Donald runs a snow removal company. He's been quietly trying to snag the HOA contract for himself. So that's what all this was about, eliminate the competition, cash in big. Once that gets out, it's open season. Homeowners file their own lawsuits. Pipes burst cars, stranded elderly folks injured. Patricia resigns in disgrace. The HOA's insurance company steps in, offers settlements, and tries to sweep it all under the rug. Meanwhile, I'm fielding calls from other HOAs. Some want to hire me. Others want to know how I pulled this off. Contractors from all over Colorado reach out with their own HOA horror stories. Turns out I'd accidentally started a movement. The small claims hearing comes around. I show up with a binder thicker than a phone book full of evidence. The judge, gray-haired, world-weary, listens to both sides, then rules in my favor. Full amount. The HOA lawyer can barely believe it. Rachel and I celebrate, but the civil suit drags on. The HOA offers to settle for $12,000. Mike laughs and counters at $35,000. We settle at $27,000, which combined with the small claims award covers all my losses and then some. More importantly, it's a big flashing warning sign for every HOA president who thinks they're above the law. But here's where this story gets really wild. A detective reaches out. Turns out Patricia wasn't just abusing her power. She'd been embezzling HOA funds for years. Over $150,000 funneled through shell companies, including her husband's business, the towing stunt. Just one piece of a much bigger scam. The investigation ends with Patricia and Donald both in handcuffs doing the perp walk for the local news. The judge gives her 6 years, orders full restitution. The HOA gets a new board, new rules, and yes, they hire me officially this time to plow their streets. Looking back, I realized the money wasn't the real win. The best part was seeing neighbors stand up, seeing other contractors realize they didn't have to take abuse, and maybe most of all, teaching my own kids what it looks like to fight for what's right, even when the odds seem stacked. There's this old veteran named George fought the HOA when they tried to fine him for flying the American flag. I helped connect him to legal help, and we publicized his story. The HOA backed down in a week. When George shook my hand, he said, "Sometimes, son, you just gotta refuse to back down. That's how you keep the bullies honest." He was right. All this, every late night, every headache, every court date taught me that refusing to accept injustice is worth the trouble. The framed invoice on my wall, $48,600 for 22 hours of buried streets, isn't just a conversation piece. It's a symbol, a reminder that one person standing up, documenting, pushing back can make a difference, not just for themselves, but for a whole community. And yeah, maybe now my company's busier than ever. Maybe I'm that guy people call when they're tired of being pushed around. But I never forget, it all started because one person thought her title made her untouchable. Funny thing though, nobody's untouchable. Not HOAs, not petty bureaucrats, not anyone who abuses their bit of power. It might take time, paperwork, a good lawyer, and a little public shaming, but eventually justice finds a way. Sometimes it looks like an invoice for snow removal. Sometimes it looks like a perp walk on the evening news. So let me ask you, where's the line between authority and abuse? What would you do if someone tried to use their power to knock you down? Have you ever fought back or wish you had? I'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment, share your experience. Tell me, where do you draw the line between playing by the rules and standing up when those rules get twisted? Because if there's one thing I learned that winter, it's this. The fight is never just about snow. It's about justice. And whether you're willing to pick up the plow when it counts.